Okay, let's talk about V-belts and what they are, what they do, and how you know when to replace them, and some quick tips on replacing. Volvo models that are the 279 series cars, the red block cars that are rear-wheel drive, use V-belts. And the reason they're called V-belts is, if you look at the profile, they kind of have a V shape. And these are used to drive your accessories. And by accessories, I mean your water pump, your alternator, your power steering pump where applicable, and air conditioning where applicable. So if you look down on this car, we've got a 240 model here, and this particular car has power steering, but does not have air conditioning. So it's going to have 3 belts. And just real quick identification, this is going to be the same on the 7 and 9 series cars as far as what's there, but the belt routing's a little bit different. We've got belts here, and these ones run around this pulley, which is the water pump. The alternator's down there, and then the crank is down there on that side. So the spinning of the crank turns these belts, which in turn turns the pulleys to pump air or water through the motor with the water pump, and to generate the current off the alternator. On this side, it's for the power steering pump, and you can see it also goes off the crank and goes over this way. Now, when you're looking at these and you're not sure, things to look for about when you might want to replace them, things like that, are going to be the really obvious things, like if you hear the thing squealing like crazy and you look under the hood and it's real loose and floppy and maybe flapping around in there. Also, if you notice things like cracking on the edges, if you look at this, you can see, if you see cracking around the edges here from being dry, or if you see the thing become frayed around here where it's got some fabric wrapping, those are also signs that you need to change it. Now, if you've determined that you do need to change them, there's a few different considerations. On some of these things, it's very, very easy because all you have to know is what the year and model of the car is, and we've got all the listings and specifications for the belt size and which ones you need to order. On a handful of them, specifically on some of the late model 240s, there's a couple different options on belt sizes. And that's going to be something where we're going to ask you to identify which size belt you have before you order to ensure you get the correct one. A couple tips on how to do that. Now, most V-belts that you're going to get from somewhere like Continental, which is the kind we carry, and you'll find at most European auto parts stores, are going to have markings like this on the belt. Now, other ones might have a slightly different style marking, but they're all going to have some of the basic information. You usually find a part number, stuff like that, manufacturer, but the main thing to look out for here, for this one example, is going to be this number, 13, which is the width of the belt in millimeters, times 975, which is the length of it in millimeters. And this one particular one is going to be a 10 by 935. So those are just a couple small things. And whatever's on your car, you can usually still see that. If you don't see it, just rotate the motor around a couple times by hand, or just bump the starter, and then we'll be able to see those markings and know what size is on there if there's a question. So now that we've talked real quickly about how to ID if you need a belt, and you've already identified which size belts you need and you have your belts and it's time to replace them, what do? Well, first you get a good service manual, because that's a must when you're doing any type of repair like this. That's going to give you your specifications on belt tension. It's going to also show you the procedure for how to get the old belt off and get the new one on. Now that we're to that point, let's talk real quick about some issues that can come up with tension of the belt, because this one is something that comes up real commonly. So if you get it on there and the tension is too loose, the thing will flap around. That usually means a slipping belt, which leads to some squeal, and can also potentially lead to some glazing from improper belt tension. And that just means where it leaves a little bit of a glaze on the pulley or on the belt, and that makes it much more prone to slip, in which case you got to take it back apart, sand it down a little bit, and deglaze it. Kind of a pain, so best to get it right the first time. Now, in your service manual, also find specifications for deflection of the belt, how much it should move when you push it. Use that as your guide, because on the other end of that, if you end up too tight, you can end up putting a lot more stress on the other pieces. You can wear out prematurely bearings on your pulleys, on your alternator, on your water pump, and any of your other accessories. And in some extreme cases too, we've even seen people with belt tension too high that eventually leads to a sheared bolt in the block for a tensioner assembly. Now, of course, all those things are rare cases, but setting your belt tension correctly the first time is a sure way to avoid any kind of future problems and to ensure that you'll have quiet, smooth, proper operation of all your accessories. If you have any questions on applications or belt install procedure or just anything like that, you can always give us a call and we'll be happy to answer any of your questions. And additionally, check out our website at www.ipdusa.com for further information on part numbers, applications, and pricing.